I've always thought the best relationships are the quiet ones. Not the Instagram perfect couples or the ones who gotta tell the world every time they hold hands. I mean the real ones, the slow mornings, the dumb jokes, grocery store runs and shared playlists on long drives. That's what I had with Lena. Or at least, that's what I thought. We've been together 9 years. Married for 6. Met when we were both working part-time at the same bookstore back in the day. She had this sarcastic smile that always made you think she knew something you didn't. We clicked fast. Started dating a month in. Got married in a courthouse because neither of us liked attention. That's just who we were, low-key, steady, comfortable. Things were good. We didn't fight much. We took trips when we could, kept the same Netflix queue going for years. She's smart, funny, stubborn as hell, but in a way that kept things interesting. And she was always loyal. I never questioned it. And honestly, I still don't know when things started to shift. It wasn't like flipping a switch. More like the slow drip of a leaky faucet, annoying if you're paying attention, but easy to ignore if you're busy enough. It started with little stuff. Real little. Lena's always been kind of forgetful with her phone, leaves it on the kitchen counter, forgets where she put it, asks me to call it so she can find it. That was normal. But one night, she was in the kitchen, and I picked up her phone off the couch without thinking when it buzzed. She looked up real quick and said, "Don't worry about it, it's just a work thing." I didn't even look at the screen. Just handed it over. But the way she said it stuck in my head, not what she said, but how fast she said it. Like she'd been waiting for it to buzz. Still, no big deal. Maybe I was reading into it. I let it go. Then there was her schedule. She works in marketing, mostly remote. But lately she's had these client meetings that come up last minute. It wasn't a regular thing, just once or twice a week, usually in the afternoon or early evening. She'd throw on a nice top, put on some perfume, say she's meeting a client downtown. Nothing strange, really. Except Lena hates driving into the city. Always has. She avoids it like the plague unless it's absolutely necessary. But again, I didn't want to be that guy. I trusted her. I still do, honestly. She's never given me a reason not to. And she always came back home, usually in a good mood, like the meeting went well. Sometimes with a coffee for me. Sometimes tired but still sweet. The only reason I'm even talking about this now is because all of these little moments started piling up. Like on their own? Nothing. But together, it's like, something's off, but I can't name it. Like the time she bought new earrings out of nowhere. Lena's not a jewelry person. She wears the same pair of studs I got her for our anniversary 4 years ago. But now she's got these new ones, dangly, kind of dressy. I noticed them one night when we were watching a movie. She caught me looking and smiled, said, "You like them?" I said yeah, they were nice. She told me her coworker gave them to her. "Just a little birthday thing," she said. Only, her birthday was 2 months ago. Still. Not a crime. Then there was a dinner she missed. We were supposed to go out for my friend Josh's birthday, just a small group, nothing fancy. She texted me an hour before, said her stomach was acting up and she was gonna stay in. I told her to rest, no big deal. I went without her. But when I came home that night, I noticed the blanket on the couch was all bunched up, and the remote was missing batteries, like she'd pulled them out. The weird part? The TV history didn't have anything new. No Netflix, no Hulu, nothing. The house felt too clean, like she just put it back together. I asked her the next morning if she watched anything while I was out. She said, "No, I mostly just napped." Again, nothing wrong with that. But it felt like a cover-up. Of what? Hell if I know. It's not like I think she's having an affair. I don't. If I had proof, I'd say it. But there's no smoking gun. Just these subtle changes. A shift in the air. And it's hard to bring up without sounding crazy. I've asked her if everything's okay between us. She always says yes, of course. Smiles. Holds my hand. Tells me she loves me. And maybe she does. Maybe she's just stressed. Maybe I'm in my own head. But something's pulling at me. Some thread I can't stop tugging on. I haven't told anyone about this. Not my brother. Not my friends. Not even Josh. I guess I don't want to say it out loud because I'm scared that if I do, it'll be real. So for now, I'm just watching. Listening. Trusting her, even if that trust's got a few cracks in it. Because if there's one thing I've learned about betrayal, it never knocks. It slips in through the cracks, slow and quiet. And I'm just hoping this ain't one of those times. But deep down, something's coming. I can feel it. About 2 weeks after that whole thing with the earrings, Lena started talking about this new campaign at work. Big client. Lot of pressure. She was excited, more than usual. I remember thinking it was kinda nice to see her lit up about something again. She was doing those little happy dances when she got emails, making new playlists, even pulling out that old planner she hadn't touched in a year. Said it helped her stay in a creative headspace. I didn't think anything of it. If anything, I was just glad she seemed happy. She started going into the office a little more often, said it was just easier to collaborate in person for this one. Her company's been hybrid for a while, so it wasn't weird. Not really. But there was this one time she mentioned a brainstorming session that ran way longer than expected. Said she grabbed a drink with a couple coworkers after to unwind. Sounded normal enough. She came home in good spirits, a little buzzed, told me they'd laughed more than they worked, and passed out right after brushing her teeth. Only thing that felt odd was her phone lit up around midnight with a text that she didn't check. Usually, if she's tipsy and a friend texts her, she laughs and reads it out loud. This time, she just turned it face down and left it. I didn't say anything. It's a strange place to be, starting to notice things without wanting to notice them. Like this one night, I came home and saw her on the couch wearing this old hoodie of mine. She looked beautiful, just simple and familiar. She paused whatever show she was watching and smiled at me like nothing was different. And for a second, I believed that maybe nothing was. But then she said, "Oh, you're home early." And I wasn't. I checked my watch. Same time I always get home. I asked her what she was watching, and she had to think about it for a second. Ended up saying she was just flipping through stuff. I sat down next to her, and she leaned into me like she always used to. My brain wanted to relax, but my gut kept nudging me. We're creatures of habit. And Lena was always in bed by 10, but now she was staying up late and more often. Reading in the kitchen. Scrolling on her phone. Once or twice, I came out to grab a glass of water and saw her just sitting at the table, sipping wine and staring at nothing. When I asked her if she was okay, she smiled and said, "Just winding down." There was no drama. No cold shoulder. But there was distance. She wasn't pulling away hard, just inch by inch, in ways I couldn't put my finger on. Then came this guy, Daniel. First time I heard the name, we were doing dishes. She mentioned him casually, said he was helping consult on the new campaign. "He's one of those creative types," she said. "Always has a million ideas. Kinda intense but smart." I joked. "Should I be jealous?" With a smile, just messing around. She laughed, tossed the towel at me, and said, "You're ridiculous." End of story. For the moment. But Daniel's name started coming up more. Daniel thinks the logo needs more space. Daniel keeps suggesting the dumbest taglines. Daniel spilled coffee on his laptop today. It was always wrapped in work talk, but it felt like someone setting the stage for something they didn't want to admit yet. One night, we were both in bed, and she was texting someone, trying not to smile. You know that look people get when they're trying not to look happy? That. I leaned over and said, "You better not be cheating on me with a graphic designer." She laughed. "God no, Daniel's married." I said, "So were you the last time I checked." She gave me a look. Not angry. Not guilty. Just unreadable. Then she kissed my cheek and rolled over. Nothing felt wrong enough to fight about. And I'm not some possessive asshole who thinks he owns his wife's time. She's allowed to have friends. But it's the slow rewrites of reality that get under your skin. Like how she used to invite me to her work events, and now she says they're just casual get-togethers. Or how she stopped asking if I wanted to grab lunch on her break, even though she used to all the time. There's this photo of us on the fridge, from our trip to Michigan 3 years ago. Every morning when I grab the orange juice, I look at it. And lately, I've been wondering if she still sees the guy in that photo the same way. I still tell myself I'm probably just in my head. Because that's easier than the alternative. And if I'm being honest, I don't want to ask her any real questions. Not yet. Because if I do, and she lies, then I'll know. And I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Not yet. It's funny what you get used to. There's a stretch of time, weeks maybe, where you convince yourself the weird moments don't mean anything. That you're just reading too much into it because you're stressed, or tired, or maybe just looking for something that isn't there. That's how I was with Lena. We were still sharing a bed, eating dinner, talking about the weather, the bills, who should clean the gutters. But everything felt like it had a second version of itself, a shadow hiding under the original. Same words, different weight. Same routines, but quieter. Less warmth. Like we were reading lines in a play we used to mean. I remember one night, I was chopping vegetables and she came up behind me, wrapped her arms around my waist. Said, "You've been so good to me lately." I smiled, said, "Have I been slacking the rest of the time?" She laughed. It was a nice moment, simple, easy. But after she let go and walked off to the living room, I just stood there holding that knife, thinking about how that hug felt, staged. Like it was something she remembered to do. Not something she wanted to do. But even then, I still didn't accuse her of anything. I didn't check her phone. Didn't follow her. I didn't want to become that guy. I've always believed that if you have to play detective in your own marriage, it's already over. So I didn't. I told myself she was just tired. Or overwhelmed. Or drifting a little, like we all do sometimes. And I guess that's why it hit so hard when I finally found out. It was a Thursday when it happened. I'd gotten home early from work, nothing unusual about the day. Lena was still out. Said she was meeting a client for a late lunch and might stop at the bookstore on the way back. I figured I'd mow the yard, crack open a beer, maybe clean out the garage if I felt ambitious. I was halfway through the garage when I heard my phone buzz in my back pocket. Just one little notification, nothing urgent. I almost ignored it. But I didn't. It was a message request on Facebook. Some guy named Daniel. I didn't know the name. Profile picture was just a mountain range. I opened it. "Hey, I know you don't know me, and I'm sorry if this is weird or out of line. I've been seeing Lena. I didn't know she was married. Not until last week. I think you deserve to know." I just stood there. Felt like the air got sucked out of the whole damn garage. There was more. A long block of text. Him explaining how they met through work. That it started small, emails, calls, inside jokes. Then lunches. Then late drinks. That she told him she and I were separated but still living together. "She said you were still friends, but emotionally done," he wrote. Said he only found out the truth when he saw a tagged photo of me and Lena from someone's birthday. Looked me up. Realized the friend was still very much her husband. He told me he ended it when he found out. That he felt sick about it. That he didn't want to be the guy who blew up someone's life. But he couldn't just sit with it either. Then he dropped the final punch, screenshots. Texts from her, saved and timestamped. Stuff like, "Wish you were here right now. He doesn't ask questions. It's easier that way. I can't wait to be out of this." There were pictures too. Nothing dirty. Just them smiling in a bar booth. Her leaning on him. Her face tucked into his shoulder like it belonged there. I didn't drop the phone. Didn't scream. Didn't do anything dramatic. I just sat down on the concrete floor. Let my back hit the drywall. And I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, just breathing. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. When Lena came home later that night, she looked the same as always. Hair a little windblown, eyes tired from whatever excuse she'd given for the day. She smiled. "You cleaned the garage?" I said. "Yeah." She leaned in, kissed my cheek, and went to change out of her boots. That night, I watched her brush her teeth. She was humming. Humming. Like her world was untouched. She crawled into bed beside me and sighed in that content way she always used to. I lay next to her in the dark and stared at the ceiling, thinking, this is the last night we'll ever do this. The next day, I started moving in silence. I took the day off work. Called a lawyer. Went to the bank, changed passwords, moved my direct deposit. Pulled my name off everything joint that I legally could. I found an apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just something quiet. Told the landlord I'd take it as is. I didn't rage. I didn't accuse. I didn't even tell my family. I just acted. Calm. Cold. Precise. And then, 3 nights later, I made her dinner. Set the table. Lit a candle. Cooked the same meal we had on our first anniversary, chicken marsala, mashed potatoes, steamed green beans. Poured her favorite red. She walked in, looked at it all, and smiled. "What's the occasion?" I said. "Just wanted to do something nice." She sat. We ate. She talked about her day, some meeting that went long, someone's birthday in the office. I nodded. Smiled. Asked questions like I always did. Then, when the plates were empty and the wine half gone, I stood up, walked over to the counter, and came back with my phone. I placed it in front of her. Unlocked. Opened to Daniel's message. She looked at the screen. Her lips parted, just slightly. Her hand twitched, like maybe she was gonna reach for the phone. Then she didn't. No tears. No denial. Just a long pause. Finally she said, "So you know." I nodded. She looked down. Said, "I didn't mean for it to get that far." I let that sit for a second. Then I said, "You meant for it to start, though." She looked like she wanted to argue. But she didn't. I stood up. Took my jacket off the back of the chair. "I'll be out by the morning," I said. "Everything's taken care of. The rest of the details come through my lawyer." She said my name once. Like it still held weight. But it didn't. I walked out, into the cool night air. Threw my bag in the truck. Turned the key and drove. And when I got to that little apartment, just a mattress, a lamp, and my duffel bag on the floor, I sat down, looked around, and smiled for the first time in months. Not because I was happy. But because I was free.